Hello, friends, and welcome to the Optimized Advisor Podcast, where we focus on optimizing the well-being and best practices of insurance and financial professionals today. On this show, our objective is to help you optimize your life, optimize your profession, and learn from other optimized advisors. I'm your host, Scott Heinela. We hope you enjoy the show. My main man, Mr. Buechler.
Scott.
Should I call you Mr. Buechler?
You,
Or
sir?
should I call you Pete?
Sir or Mr. Buechler? No, call me Pete. Pete or Peter?
Got it.
Yeah, thank
Pete.
you,
I've
buddy.
always called you Pete.
Yep.
Do you remember how we met?
I think you were a wholesaler for
Yeah, unnamed company.
a company who will not be. I don't even think they have that name any longer.
No, they do not.
And I was
actually.
working for an
an unnamed organization.
FMO in the area, not yours nor mine. And we became fast friends.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We did.
Absolutely. So
That was a long time. I mean, it was a long time ago. It was in, that would have been 05.
Oh, there you go. 15,
05.
16 years.
Because it was for sure the first year that I started at this insurance organization.
Uh-huh.
And you were the director of sales there.
I
at
was
the time.
director of sales at an FMO here in Southern California.
Love at first sight.
I ran their annuity department, and me and a couple of my buddies, and made them a lot of money, and did a lot of good planning, and yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That was a lot of
I
fun.
think I was 6 years, and I started wholesaling in '99, and prior to that, I was a kitchen table talk term UL. We're here to protect your family life insurance agent.
Working at a retail agency.
In the field at a GA, sort of a smaller GA, still around, that I had started at as a kid when I was like 17 as a telemarketer. And then through college, that's how I put myself through college, was I sold life insurance. And then I wasn't that great at life insurance sales. And after I graduated from college, I decided I wanted to move in a different direction and sort of fell into this FMO. And they said, hey, do you want to be our annuity guy? I didn't really know what an annuity was. And I said, yeah, sure. And then that was 99. So 22 years ago.
Yeah. And one of the major reasons why you're here today is we are going to talk a lot about
Politics.
Oh, I hope not.
No, we're talking about
legislation
and regulation.
But specifically, you've had a long tenure with NAIFA and its involvement as an organization, and you have played in a significant role within that organization, both locally and nationally, and everything in between, right?
I wouldn't say so much national. I do have a national role. I'll tell you a little bit.
Across the state.
Across the state. So NAIFA is the National Association of Insurance and Financial Advisors. Its name tells us what it is. It's the primary political action organization on behalf of independent agents and financial advisors. So we do not represent the carriers and the investment entities. We're the group that lobbies at Sacramento in California and in Washington, D.C. for legislation, regulation, and laws that either benefit our industry or at the very least aren't a detriment to our industry, which it seems that more and more of the legislation, regulation we see coming out is just trying to hamstring what we do.
Yeah.
I think a lot of good intentions, but that goes. But my roles within NAIFA, when I started in '99 in the wholesale side, that's when I came to know NAIFA and I became a member. And then pretty quickly I got involved on the board. And I think in 05, 06, I was the president for NAIFA Orange County, which is the Orange County local. NAIFA is a national association, state associations, and then local associations throughout the states. California is probably at the time was the largest state. I think Florida or Texas might be right there with us. But I was the president for Orange County and sort of involved in doing things here in Orange County. And it's really lobbying organization, networking organization, sales, marketing ideas.
Yeah.
Things like this.
Yeah.
A lot of events like that. And 05, 06, I was president of Orange County. And then I think 15, 16, I was president of NAIFA California.
California, okay.
So that was an awesome experience. And one of the things that I did is I got us back involved with doing Day on the Hill, which is where we actually go to Sacramento, meet with our legislators and lobby them on issues that are before them. And I'll tell you in a little bit about one that's come up. But that's really what we do. You know, the meetings, the sales meetings, and all that stuff. Fun. I love meeting. But I mean, these people, NAIFA members, become your friends. You really get close to them.
Right.
And great sales ideas and just all that good stuff. But really, we are a lobbying organization. And when I was president of California, we hadn't done a day on the Hill, I think, in 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And I said, hey, we got to, let's get back to focus. So since I was president, we've done a day on the Hill in California since then. I think it's incredibly important. I'll tell you a little bit about our last day on the Hill. And then we also have our national, our federal CONCON, our Congressional Congress, where we go and meet with our federal legislators.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's great.
And you're a member as well.
I am. And in large part thanks to you. You introduced me to, or I should say, help to clarify the benefits that me as an insurance professional at the time would benefit by being a member of NAIFA. And since really you and you're advocating for NAIFA is when I became a member, and albeit I could certainly be more involved, but it's a time thing. I'm very blessed about people like you who do.
You got it.
Take the time.
Yeah, I'm single and I don't have two lovely wife, two great little kids, and all that. All the employees and all the things that come with Producer's Choice. We do the same thing, but I do it on a smaller, sort of a boutique scale, and I think it does give me the opportunity to get more involved. Yeah. But hey, your membership. And anybody who's an insurance agent should be a member of NAIFA. And I think, depending upon where you're at in your career, there's different value that you get from NAIFA. Yeah. When I first started as a wholesaler, it was great for me to network and meet people, pick up sales. I just educate myself about what's going on. And just, it's tough to say where'd you learn that, or where'd you pick up that minute piece of information? It's just, you got to be there. You're in the mix. Yeah. I think it helped me as a younger wholesaler to sort of a little gravitas to what I was doing, and that, hey, I was in the know. Right. And I think that always helps. Yeah. Whether it's planning for your practice or on a retail capacity, speaking to, hey, here's what's going on with your clients as to, hey, here's what's on the horizon. Here's how our planning today, anticipates that. We can't always plan, who knows, legislation, regulation, fiscal policy, things like that. We can sort of plan for what we think might happen. Yeah.
It's an interesting thing because I think, from a NAIFA standpoint, just spending some time both in the Orange County chapter and attending meetings, you certainly get value from attending the meetings through just knowledge, right? Yeah. And presenters and other practitioners, or from a positive standpoint, talking heads and experts in the space. So you on the surface absolutely plug and play into that value. That just kind of speaks for itself. But also accessing information and resources through the website, which is funny because I would say many members probably don't acutely know all the areas of benefit that an organization like NAIFA provides. Yeah. And then the one that you've always enlightened me on, probably the biggest reason for being a member of NAIFA is its ability to advocate for us and to be an advocacy real division of, if you will, of our practice, which, let's face it, individual practitioners, how are they really getting involved in being in the know of potential legislation and advocating for legislation and, being really the spokesperson for us? Yeah. There's a lot that we can kind of dive into there. And maybe we take one at a time.
Well, there is, and you mentioned something. I'm glad you did, because it's not something that I've utilized. But NAIFA, as far as a resource for an independent agent or financial advisor, or even somebody who's with a large career carrier, an Allstate or a New York Life or something rep, I always appreciated, because I came from a GA, sort of a semi-captive GA. I always appreciated seeing what my competition was up to. Mm-hmm. As an independent person, where do I get a sample buy-sell agreement? They got a repository of information on that. How does a split dollar work? What's a non-qualified deferred comp 412? Those types of questions. It's a great resource.
It's all housed right there.
Right there. So as far as that stuff, now, not that I don't use that stuff or I don't need that stuff, but I that's not what drives me. And they've done some studies at NAIFA. The longer you're in the business, the advocacy becomes more important. Mm-hmm. And they say 7 years is sort of that timeline where you're, the camaraderie, the networking, the sales ideas, the tools and all that stuff. I love all that stuff. But then you start seeing the real rubber meets the road value of what NAIFA is doing and how they're battling. And some stuff, it's the problem that we have with NAIFA is that if they don't know we're doing it, we're not doing it. So AB 5, let's talk about getting to the legislation part.
Yeah.
AB 5, Assembly Bill 5, this was a bill that came up in 16, 17. And this was the independent contractors bill.
Oh, yeah.
And you might remember when the Uber drivers, they had all the ads for, support AB 22, support this, Prop 22, Prop 22, so that they don't have to. Well, what happened is in California, AB
my barber was all up in arms about this thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's what NAIFA did. Now, and not to sound silly, but if your barber had a political action organization, which they do, or if they had leveraged and gathered all those barbers to get their voice out there and get it to be heard, they wouldn't have been lobbying after the fact. But what NAIFA did, NAIFA California, under the leadership of John Neilmeyer, who was a close friend of our president of the state at the time, with our lobbyists, we actually have a state lobbyist for NAIFA California. That's part of what our member dues go for, who's in the Capitol, Sherry McHugh, Kepke and Associates. But she saw this bill come down, this initial AB 5 bill that says, listen, if you're an independent contractor in California, you are going to be an employee. You are going to be a W-2 employee. You are no longer going to be independent, whether you're an Uber driver or whether you're a babysitter or whether you're the real small limitations. There's an ABC test that they do, but basically everybody's going to be an employee. And a number of reasons for that. I think part of the mindset, again, good intentions, to give these groups larger collective bargaining agreements or to increase union membership, which, you could argue any number of reasons why they might want to increase union membership. Also to ensure that they're getting their self-employment taxes within the state and things of that nature. But it was a pretty heavy-handed way to sort of bring these potential benefits and to gather this revenue.
Right.
But we recognized what it would do, and it would really substantially change. Not substantially, I think fundamentally change the role of what we do. I mean, our role, even though technically we're agents, we're representing the company, but we're fiduciaries in many respects. We're definitely required, and especially now, to act in the best interest of our clients. So what this bill was doing was saying, hey, listen, instead of being a 1099 independent agent, you're going to be an employee of every single insurance company that you do business with. And then that starts opening up, well, if I'm an employee, who owns those clients? There's those types of questions. Yeah. I can think of the tax reporting and all those things. I'm an employee. I have
and how do I define my duration of employment? So I write a case, a client in 2017, let's just say, for XYZ insurance company, and I'm now an employee of that insurance company. How does the insurance company, kind of oversee and manage my employment and terminate my employment, and what does termination of employment look like? And it becomes a huge mess.
Who services that client? Who does the client belong to, and things like that.
That's the thing. A lot of these bills are so good intention to try and solve a problem. Let's give it that. But then some of them seem to be so abrupt. Yeah. And I wonder a lot of times where in these conversations that are being had, isn't there a person that steps up and says, because I would think insurance or financial services is a massive, massive business or a driver of revenue in any state.
Huge.
It's like, well, wait a minute here. Time out. You need to understand how these products are distributed before you go down this path. And you're really, really unraveling something that, how do you unravel that?
Here's the interesting number. Every day, the insurance industry, the industry that we work in, pays out $2.1 billion in benefits. That's disability benefits, pension benefits. Every single day. That's second only to Social Security Administration, which pays out $2.5 billion.
Wow.
So we are an incredible driver. But the problem with being a driver is they see all this revenue.
Right.
And especially when we've got aggressive spending, for whatever reason, you may agree with it or not.
Right.
The facts are we've got
incredible gaps to fill.
Gaps to fill.
Yeah.
And the government doesn't make money. It's not a business. They can only take in revenue in the form of taxes, fees, regulatory fees, things of that nature. So we've always got a target on our back. And I think that's why, again, getting back into, man, we're so big. And how do we know? How does an agent know what's going on? Well, one, they should be a member of NAIFA. And they can pay as much or as little attention as they want. But I think when you're talking about membership and involvement, I'm involved. I'm a single guy. I dig that stuff. I'm a little bit of a political wonk type of guy. So I'm in the mix.
Right.
Hey, you are just as important when we go to Sacramento or DC and we say, hey, we've got 1,300 members of NAIFA,
right,
or 1,301, Danielle or whoever
these
it
are
is.
the voices.
That's it, and we represent millions, because you represent hundreds of agents, and those agents represent hundreds, if not thousands, of clients.
Right.
So, I would say don't just, if you don't think that you can get involved or, hey, it doesn't matter if I'm involved, absolutely it matters. It matters big time.
So to close the conversation on AB5, what happened there?
We won, baby. We won. AB5, what we got specifically with AB5 is we got a carve out for agents, financial advisors in that bill. So instead of having seeing commercials about, Uber drivers not wanting to be, employees and wanting to retain their independence, their independent contractor status, we saw that issue before the bill came to the floor. We got at it in committee. We worked with the legislators because of the relationships that we had developed over those years.
Right.
It's it's not that, hey, we got a problem, we need to fix this. It's, hey, when I went to the fish fry, 2 years ago at the local church with you, and I showed up to your fundraiser, and it's not always about money. Money's, it seems such a dirty sort of arena. What I think our political donations, and we give NAIFA, it gives about $50,000 a year. In California, we give about $1 million a year nationally on the federal stage. But in California, within California elections, about $50,000 a year, $1,000 here, $1,500 there.
Yeah.
And it lets us support legislators who are going to be it's not even vote the way we want, but at least give us an ear.
Yeah.
At the
end of the day, that's just the way it works.
Yeah, for sure. So we got AB5B. Now we see new legislation coming
what are we
out.
seeing?
Okay, so now AB5, they took AB5, they brought it to D.C., and it is in the form of the PRO Act. And I think it's the Professional Rights to Organize Act.
Yep. And
this current administration is very pro-union, and that however you feel about unions, what's the word I'm looking for? We've 90% of independent advisors polled through NAIFA. We polled advisors, have stated they don't want to be part of a union for collective bargaining. That's not something that interests them. So the PRO Act, I think, is AB5, but on a federal level. And again, we've got independent agents, financial advisors. Independence is under attack, and our ability to really retain ourselves as 1099 is going to change the worker classification. And really the main reason is with the ABC test to be if you're an independent contractor. The B part of that test is, do you as a person or what you do, is it substantially similar to the organization that you're working for? And we can't say, of course it is. We're selling life insurance or we're selling annuities. They're annuity providers or life insurance providers. But the nature of how we do it and our distribution, the nature of our relationship with our clients demands that we be independent.
So AB5, we succeeded. NAIFA succeeded in getting us a carve-out.
Absolutely.
But now the PRO Act is basically just a resurfacing of looping insurance professionals and financial advisors back into the fold to try and figure out how to remove our status as independent contractors, if you will. And we're going to then subject to being a W-2 employee or a W-2, I guess it's employee. It has to be, right?
Yep.
Legally.
You would be an employee.
With every company we represent.
Those 40 1099s you get, you're going to get 40 W-2s with all the things associated with that, with all the tax. With
the impact
just
to the consumer's products would be so significant.
The average agent would dramatically reduce, if not eliminate, a large multitude of the carriers that he or she represents. And that's what we do.
Huge.
That's exactly what we do. Who's the best? Well, tell me about your client. What are they trying to accomplish? of the 60 companies that we represent, these 2 are the best, and this one is the absolute best.
Do we know what percentage of insurance products are distributed through, let's call them captive companies versus independent distribution? It's got to be 20% captive, 30% captive, 80% independent. Something like that. It's got to be something like that. I don't know if there's a number somewhere.
There is, and I don't know that number. If I was to just speak anecdotally about the members and who I see, I think you're probably pretty close.
And we could unpack that or peel away the onion and say, okay, well, in whole life insurance, it's this.
Yeah.
And in index annuities, it's this. And obviously, there would be, I think, a dramatic difference. When you look at like SPIAs and deferred income annuities.
Yeah.
I would say those would be predominantly distributed through more of those career platforms.
Yeah.
But as a whole, if I say annuities as a group, regardless of class type, I have to think that, because that includes variable annuities to begin with, right? So that's a huge percentage as an independent distribution. Huge percentage, overwhelming majority. So now basically what I'm getting to is the fact that by enacting legislation like this, everyone would operate similarly to that of like a wirehouse or a captive insurance distributor, where I'm only offering 2 or 3 different. I mean, how could that
making it more difficult?
Now, to be clear, this is just a California legislation.
No.
No.
AB 5, Assembly Bill 5, was a California bill that we beat 4 years ago.
The PRO Act is federal legislation.
The PRO Act is a federal piece of legislation. So this is 4 or 5 years ago. We were lobbying California saying, hey, this piece of legislation in California is a bad piece of legislation. It only affected you if you worked in California.
Right.
This PRO Act is the same piece of legislation, but it affects everybody nationally. And it's interesting. Wow. I think that's one of the neat things about NAIFA is we see so much happening here in California and New York and some of the really California and New York. We are the petri dish of bad ideas. So oftentimes we'll see something at the state legislature and we'll be like, and we've got a great lobbyist here, like I mentioned, Sherry McHugh. We catch this stuff, we fix it, we fight it, we get people on it. Unfortunately, it's a little bit tougher at the federal level because you've got everybody pushing from all these other states that may support these types of legislation.
Right, different agendas, and it becomes a lot more.
But we can go in and say, listen, we saw this in California. Here's how we treat it in California. We're looking for that same carve-out nationally, which we had last week was our Congressional Congress where we did. This year we did our meetings for down the hill within Sacramento when we met with our state legislators, as well as Congressional Conference, meeting with our federal legislators in D.C. Those were both done virtually this year. But normally we go up there and say, hey, here's what's going on. And it makes an impact. I mean, you get 250 members here in Sacramento or 1,500 members in D.C., that physical presence makes a difference.
So before we go on to another piece of legislation we want to talk about, which is like this DOL 2.0.
Yeah.
Pause on that. You and I, you may recall, had this conversation. A big part of our business, and we're just very focused in long-term care planning and working in the long-term care insurance space. You and I both are, and with our advisors, certainly. We're advocates for proper planning for long-term care. Fastest area of our company's growth in the last few years. With that said, you and I are having this conversation particularly about why it's so challenging for companies to get products approved in California. And you had said, it's crazy, Scott. I've sat down with some of these, the Congress people up in Sacramento. You remember this conversation?
Yes.
And their response, I'm floored by that.
Yeah.
So let's enlighten.
Well, I'll tell you, and there's some good news on the horizon possibly. And California's unique, and not everybody knows this, but really the products that you have in each state is run by your state. The state's insurance department are run by the states.
Right.
There's the NAIC, which is the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, where those states that are NAIC states, they all sort of create their own rules, or they create sort of standard rules that everybody goes with.
Kind of a club, if you will.
Yeah, and of course
consortium.
California sort of does their own thing. But California, we've got some unique issues. One, we've got a fire issue in California. The fires that have happened in the last couple of years have dramatically affected the insurance regulatory arm of the Department of Insurance, really the Department of Insurance
as a whole.
It is their focus. We also had covered California Obamacare, which again was upending. So all these things thrown in there, some of the other products and things get pushed to the side. But I'll tell you specifically how a product gets approved is they file information, they file the product documents and file the product within the state, and it either gets approved or it gets declined. Well, it's supposed to get approved, and I don't quote me, but let's call it 9 months.
Right.
And if it doesn't, then
which is a long time.
Which is a long time. But what will happen is the Department of Insurance will reach out to the carrier and say, listen, this isn't going to get approved. You can either hold off or we'll decline it and you can resubmit. So, and it's not getting approved because it's not good. On some instances,
it's just we haven't gotten to it.
We haven't gotten to it. So another thing that NAIFA did is not only, we're reactive on some legislative stuff, but we're proactive on this. And we actually paid for a study, NAIFA did, to show the process time and what we needed to get this moving forward. And this year, we are seeing some movement within California to get product approved. So there's just the process of approving product. It's a process, and they're just focused on other things.
Yeah, so long-term care is going to be down on their list, which is part of the problem.
Way down, and that's the major issue, especially when it comes to linked benefit contracts or improvements on whether it's One America or MoneyGuard or whoever it might be, these products that are approved across the country, but we don't get them approved here in California.
It's shocking to me because if I can privately, that's got to be such a major expense for the state in terms of the elderly being provided, whether it's state-funded or government-funded care for these types of supports and services. But yet their mentality is not that they really want anybody, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone on, a private pay plan.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because I can only speculate, okay? But you're right in that as far as approving whether it's new health insurance products, new long-term care products, any product that California as a whole would prefer that you buy everything from California, whether it's your health insurance on the exchange. We can talk about Covered California. In order for Covered California to work, in any really sort of
we need everyone.
We need everybody on it.
Yeah.
So anything that's going to drive people to purchase something else somewhere else is not good. So that's in the health insurance space, but you see that also in the life space, in the retirement space, and I'll speak to a bill, AB 1234 or 1234, and this is the Cal Savers program, which you're familiar with.
Yep.
And if you're an advisor, you should be, and if you're an advisor and you were not offering qualified plans, you should be, because your clients, your small business owner clients, when I say small business owner, I mean 2 employees, 5 employees, are going to be required or will be automatically opted in to a retirement plan run by the state. So if you're not offering a retirement
independent plan,
if you're not offering a plan, your employees will be automatically opted into a state-run plan
through their payroll,
through the payroll deduction, and that's
right.
so that's in effect right now. And I think right now it's 50 or more employees. Shortly, I think it's in June. I don't know if you know the dates of. I think it's
we could look that up.
Yeah, October, but it's we'll put a crayon down below with the correct information.
Yeah. But this is important information. Like I would say, if nothing else, maybe quarterly as an advisor, go onto the NAIFA website. There's got to be a page on the NAIFA website that has like a legislation page. And because here's the deal, being a proponent here, like NAIFA does a really good job of email communication, but let's face it, how many emails are we receiving? How many get clutter, junk, what have you? Am I really reading these? But like you should quarterly spend an hour. Peruse the portion of a website, whether it's NAIFA or any other regulatory site. Like, what's the pulse here?
There's not, but there, and that's why I appreciate NAIFA. There is no other organization that's doing what we're doing. So I'd say, well, you can go to NAIFA. You can really only go to NAIFA and really see what's going on. That if you're an independent agent, financial advisor, that's your group.
Yeah.
You're not going to meet with ACLIC, the Association of California Life and Health Insurance Companies. That's the carriers lobbying group. They're not necessarily interested in what you're doing.
Right.
But absolutely. And it's not so much, it's quarterly, but there is a season to this. We see bills are sort of percolated, after the election, November, January, February, they're percolating. March is when you start seeing these bills come to fruition and sort of getting into committee. That's where you sort of get in there and try to tweak things, make your voice heard. And then they'll either get approved and signed or not, and then you sort of go back into dormant mode and then do it all over again.
Yeah.
So I don't know that you have to every quarter, but my role, I talked a lot about my role within NAIFA as past president, but my role now is a role that I really lobbied to get, is the government relations chair for California. So I help develop what we're doing from I was going to say a tax standpoint, but that's probably not the best word, from a standpoint of how we're going to go about, one, approaching our legislators, connecting with our lobbyists, developing, who do we give to, what bills are we looking at, how are we going to approach this, developing some of the events and things like that. But we also do have a quarterly government relations call for all NAIFA members of, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the scoop.
You can hop on and just listen.
Hop on and listen. And that's what you need, because I can say, hey, here's what's going on to our members. And even, I got to be honest with you, on this, I'm giving you, okay, here's the broad-based. But with the members, because we only allow members on the call, I can say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what matters. And here's, and give them the inside scoop.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the trips to the Hill, and how that you kind of, resurface that. I have heard from many members and been involved with that, that it's been a big success.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody I've talked to that has done that was, wow. Yeah. I didn't know. I have no idea what it was like.
Well, it's super cool. Whether it's Sacramento, Sacramento's an awesome town, so just for the fun factor. But you really get to sort of see how sausage is made. You get to go up there. I mean, at Sacramento, usually we're meeting with our legislator, or sometimes you meet with the staffer. Doesn't matter, because even meeting with staffers, usually those staffers end up becoming legislators. It's interesting. We'll have a meeting with a staffer 10 years ago, and all of a sudden they're a legislator, and you have those relationships that you develop. But it's cool. It's you actually go into Sacramento. Either you schedule.
How many go usually?
In Sac, we usually have anywhere from 80 to 120.
Wow.
Yeah. So we'll get, and we have we'll meet across the way, and usually we'll have a speaker who'll come in. We'll do a sort of a breakfast prep, and we'll try to do a one day. You fly in the morning. We meet at a great location, Sutter Club. And we'll hear from a couple speakers. We'll hear from some of the legislative leaders within the Senate, or within the House, or the Senate, the Assembly within California, the Senate within the California. Usually somebody on the Insurance Commission. They'll sort of talk to us. We'll hear from the commissioner. Then they'll leave. All the legislators will leave, and then we'll have our confab of, hey, here's what's going on. Here's the bills. Here's how you want to approach this. Here's what we're asking for. And we'll go across the street to the Capitol with our list of, hey, here's what's going on. Here's why this matters. Here's what I do on a daily basis in my clients, and how this bill is going to affect that client. It sounds like a great idea, but really what it's going to do is this.
Right.
This year we were 4 for 4. Here's the bills. AB 1400, this is single payer. This is not going anywhere, but that was a single payer bill. It's always sort of floating around. California wants to do their own single payer health plan. It will not work fiscally. So we're always saying, hey, let's, this is not going to work fiscally until we figure out a national, if that's the direction we're going to go. The other one is 1498. 1498, I think, was, actually, let me tell you about AB 551, because this one really mattered. This was I think, a good intentions bill. This was from Freddie Rodriguez, who's a friend of ours. And we know Freddie's a assemblyman out of Inland Empire. And his bill was to allow STRS and PERS, state teachers and public employees retirement system, to allow advisors within STRS and PERS to go into their client list, to that not their client list, but to the member list, and offer those people individual retirement accounts in addition to their qualified retirement plan.
Right.
Okay, well, that's illegal. You cannot give a state entity exclusive rights to access a group of employees, state employees, to sell them a commercial product. Now, that's just, you can't do that. We can't show preference in legislation to one group over another.
Right.
So if you're selling individual retirement accounts, IRAs, to policemen, firemen, teachers, nurses, anything of that nature, that would have immediately removed that opportunity, or dramatically reduced that opportunity. Now, we talked to Freddie. We said, Freddie, we know we're trying to get more retirement, and we'll get into the not only DOL fiduciary, but we can get into the Secure Act 2.0. But that was a huge bill. Hey, we just want to get people to retirement. Yeah, so do we. So why don't we maybe make those? How can we do that for all agents, all advisors?
Right.
So I think that was a good bill as well. A couple others, but not as important. More
right.
But still, getting in there and we every single one we got what we wanted. So
that's great.
It's good stuff.
So on the federal level, we're now looming. This DOL's kind of resurfacing, and this is driven by a few people during the Obama administration that were very, very proponents of this, Elizabeth Warren and things like this. So is it just resurfacing from the same spokespeople, if you will, that represent?
Yes and no. Not so much Elizabeth Warren. She's part of it, but not so much on the Republican side, but I think there is a want, especially on the Democratic side, to federalize as much as possible. So the DOL really has to do with when we say DOL fiduciary rule, it's Department of Labor, and it really only affects qualified accounts because that's what the DOL has control over. And what the DOL is saying that if you work with qualified accounts, then you must act as a fiduciary in all instances. Now, right now we have a best interest or a suitability. And best interest and fiduciary are typically considered the same. They're not quite the same, but let's just for our
legally, if I break them apart, obviously there is the legal differences between the two. But
somebody smarter than me could explain
practicing standpoint, it's like this is I am acting as a fiduciary.
Yes.
My designation requires me to. The firm I represent requires me to.
Yeah.
I'm already acting in this capacity.
Well, the traditional capacity is suitable. Is this a suitable product for this client in this situation, which is something that we've worked under in all instances. And I don't necessarily, like you, I'm a CFP. I am a fiduciary, just by the nature of my designation.
Right.
By the nature of how I've done business all my career, I'm always working in my client's best interest.
Right.
But I think there was a mindset, whether it's Warren or whomever, that part of that issue was that can you be working in your client's best interest and still receive a commission or some sort of variable commission?
Yeah, there seems to be the dirty word.
Yeah, commissions.
Yeah.
Well, you can. And that was sort of addressed because just by how some producers are compensated, let's talk about me as a kid. When I first started in this industry, I was selling life insurance. I was selling term insurance. And I would get commissions. The commissions were paid 75% of the first year's premium up front. And that's what your commission is, sort of front-loaded
Similar
commission.
Today. Yep.
Yeah. So did I service those clients for years after? Absolutely I did, But it allowed me to actually enter the industry and to be compensated and be part of the industry and to bring those products to those clients. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but sort of the mindset before is, well, we're just going to have one commission for every product across the board. It's the same commission. Well, that's not how products are priced.
Right.
And it's, I saw Bernie Sanders one time. He goes, look at all these different types of beans. Why do you need all these types of beans? They just want one product. It's like, that's not how it works.
That's not how it works at all.
No, and it's not, that's not how it works. That's not how it should work because everybody's situation is unique. Every product is unique. Remember, for the most part, I'm not saying there's not some similarities amongst products, but a good advisor is always doing that, and they're going to continue to do that. So
there's where the challenge becomes: if I have many products that I represent, and I'm really in the know, or I'm aligned with somebody who is really in the know as an extension of my practice, which is the role we really play today for the most part.
Sure.
Depending on the ages, the health, the location, the psychographics of this people, their family, what their goals are, what their objectives are, income needs, withdrawal. I mean, there's so many factors that play into one product over another.
Sure.
Identifying, which we hope we represent the best solution to meet the needs, but the needs can be very vast. And therein lies, the correlation or the opportunity, I guess you will, that you can't have all things be equal. And that's a beautiful place to actually exist in.
Sure.
Because we can be entrepreneurial, we can be creative, we can be inventive in providing solutions that meet many different needs. And by stripping all that away, all it does is mundane things. It strips away creativity and opportunity, and that's what we cannot allow ourselves to fall into that category.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, absolutely. In commissions, it's just such a small part of that, or how you're compensated, or all those things.
It's like, I want 3 flavors of ice cream: vanilla, chocolate, strawberry. Well, wait a minute. I happen to like, vanilla with this in there, and that's what. Not to dumb it down, but that's valuable.
Let me take it in a different direction. And the issue was commissions. And it's not so much of an issue. So again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but I think, again, it's the good intentions, or, the road to wherever is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
But let's talk about when I was a kid. I mean, literally a kid. I was 19, 20, 21, selling life insurance, term insurance to families, and I was making commissions.
Right.
Now, how the mindset is, well, if you're making commissions, you can't be looking out for the best interest of your client. Absolutely, I was.
Right.
Absolutely, I protected families who didn't have coverage. Absolutely, I was compensated by commissions. And frankly, those are the families, the people who have $250,000 of investable assets, the people who have the wealthy, they're fine.
Right.
They're going to get the guy or the gal who will work on their account. Maybe they'll pay them a fee, a $1,500 fee, or a point on their investments or whatever, and they'll get that service.
Right.
But middle or lower income market, that it's just not fiscally feasible for an advisor to service those clients on just sort of on a service-based contract or AUM
they can't afford a $1,500 fee.
And they can't afford that fee. So it's like, well, so and again, it's we've addressed that. I think we're moving in a positive direction. And not saying that we've got things beat, but I think we've got a good ear on the PRO Act from our congressional Congress. I had a great conversation, very learned staffer for Dianne Feinstein, Justin, I forget his last name, but very learned guy, sort of understood the issue. But from what I'm hearing from on high, that's moving in a positive direction.
That's good. That's good news to hear.
And we are seeing some other positive things. We're seeing some positive things with the Secure Act 2.0. We're seeing more credits to start qualified plans, and I think that goes back to, especially if you're an advisor in California, if you know Scott, reach out. That they can help you get qualified plans going for your clients. And especially the ones. And I'm thinking of my friends or my clients. My broker's clients who we didn't really talk to. He's just got a small 2-man shop. I don't want to bug him or whatever. You know what? Bug him, because he's going to get bugged by California pretty quick. And he's got some great credits with the Secure Act 2.0, which is a bipartisan bill. That's SB 1771, but they call it, Secure Act 2.0. Hey, that's positive.
Right.
We know the numbers of, 75% of Americans have less than $25,000 saved for retirement. Just crazy numbers.
Yeah.
So we like that. We support that as far as, anything we can do to help people save more.
Let's talk about, this is an interesting conversation that I've had actually. So when I took I was involved in the what's it called? The NAIFA course?
RICP.
No.
Lily?
Yeah, Lily.
You did Lily?
I did.
Oh.
So pandemic hit, in full disclosure.
Okay.
Did not finish.
Oh. So
that didn't go over too well. Oh. But that's in full honesty. Anywho, moving on. Yeah, that's
moving
not a
rapidly
positive.
forward.
Yeah, rapidly forward.
Yes.
Great group of people. Good curriculum, all of that.
Lily is the Leadership in Life Institute. It's an additional value add above and beyond all the other things we talked about for NAIFA, but for a limited few people, and it's across the country. It's actually started in California by Larry Lambert, who is just a legend in the industry. But it really helps you become a better you. It's not even NAIFA focused, but it's helping It's helping you within your career, within your family, really anything that you want to work on. I think it gives you a lot of tools to become better at it.
Absolutely.
I did Lily in, I think, 04, 05. So just before my presidency of Orange County. And
it became very clear. It's a very tight-knit club, if you will, of the graduates and all of that.
Oh, the whole thing.
But with that said, one of the conversations we had, which you and I have touched on a little bit, is this, and it's not specific to even financial or insurance services, but just as a whole, as a country, as a culture maybe, you're seeing this diminished membership across the board. Yeah. And we started to unpack that conversation of why particularly are we seeing that. And even in like let's say scouting or Girl Scouts or Boy
Yeah.
Scouts, for kids and consumers and everything at large. You're just kind of seeing this disconnection, if you will, of memberships. And one of the things is within the financial and services, the other thing is, which we've kind of done ourselves a detriment, I think, is by creating all of these kind of spin-offs, if you will, or splinters of different, more acute networks or associations that have taken away, if you will, the strength of one body.
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer of that, but I'm sure you have some insight. I mean, NAIFA's seen a decrease in membership.
It has,
but so has everybody at
well,
large.
NAIFA's decrease in membership, I think, is absolutely in line with what we're seeing with professional organizations across the board. And you're right. We talk about the Elks Lodge, although I'm looking to join the Elks Lodge in Orange. It's a great lodge.
Yeah.
But then
Well,
again,
they need people. I mean, they need more people to get involved.
it is just a different sort of mindset, whether it's changing fraternal organizations, professional organizations, just, you can blame the internet, although this has been going on prior to the internet, but I think it accelerates that. Just people get a little bit more, I don't know whether you're self-centered or whatever the case may be, or they're not seeing the value. And some of that's on the organizations not communicating. I appreciate this opportunity. I professionally do what you do, but as far as volunteer, I think NAIFA is incredibly important.
Yeah.
But we need to just do a better job of getting that message out and finding that value add for the members. Like I said, 7 years in, the network and all that stuff, that's cool. But you see the big picture on the legislative stuff. You're like, hey, I'll pay NAIFA members like $50 a month or something like that. Actually, it's lower. If you are first year in the industry, it's $10 a month.
Oh, wow.
Second year, it's $20 a month. Third year, $30. If you've never, even if you're a veteran in the industry, but you've never been a member, I think there's a starter like membership, like $20, $30 a month. But I mean, it is your insurance plan for your career. It's career insurance.
Right.
So, the point, getting back to
how many active members are there now it's changed a little bit in terms of how it's structured, where there maybe isn't local chapters anymore.
What it was is we saw a lot of chapters were just not doing it, not getting the job done. And when our focus is political action, bringing value to our members, membership and political dollars as well. So, if you're not bringing political act, if you're not engaging your members at the local level, if you're not driving for membership, if you're not pushing for PAC dollars to help our voice, whether it's at DC or Sacramento, then you're not doing it. Then let's focus those energies elsewhere. Let's get other people involved. So, like a lot of groups, streamlining. When I first looked, I go, okay, is this a good thing? It was a good thing. It lets us be a little bit leaner, a little bit more focused. And frankly, I think some of it just became sort of coffee club. And there's nothing wrong with getting together and meeting with other meeting with other financial advisors, but we're here with a goal and focus. We do have an objective. We've got an objective, absolutely. So we love the coffee clubs, keep having the coffee club, but when we're doing the NAIFA stuff, we're focused on the goal. And with that, we're seeing a change in membership. We're seeing an increase in membership. We've seen an increase in membership with the NAIFA California over the last 2 years.
That's great.
Jason Foster, our membership chair, Mike Mattis, who took over, or Jason took over for Mike, did a great job of setting the table. I think that win with AB5 was huge. Yeah. It's pretty political. I've always been pretty political, but geez, it sure feels extra political the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
But and I've talked a little about legislators, Dem or Republican legislator. NAIFA is a non-profit or non-partisan organization.
Right.
We give to everybody.
Right. It's advocating for our constituents, which are insurance and financial professionals.
Absolutely, and the clients we serve.
Yeah, absolutely. The clients they serve.
There has been a shift, lots of reasons for that, but I think we're making some changes in that we are connecting with the Latino American Agents Association, with African American Agents Association, with WIFs, Women in Financial Services, because you're right. We saw sort of this delineation and this further compartmentalizing of these groups, but it really diminished our voice.
Right.
So now with us partnering with these organizations, and even some of the organizations that were part of us and left, whether like not AELU sort of moving in a different direction, but MDRT and some other ones that are going, hey, wait a second. NAIFA's it. They're getting it done as far as legislation and lobbying. Why are we trying to rebuild the wheel over here when we got one that's working very well?
Right. I'd love to see that, more of that happen in time and collaboration, and kind of just, hey, look, the law in large numbers becomes a very, very powerful voice.
Oh, yeah.
And hopefully we can redirect that, and it sounds like it's happening.
Well, I'll mention one thing real quick, and I think where we see a lot of this, the first DOL rule that came down, that NAIFA was the complainant on the rule that went through, I forget the Fifth Circuit, which is the Texas Circuit, Federal Circuit Court, that we got the DOL rule thrown out. Mm-hmm. So it was NAIFA was the plaintiff. So you want to talk about NAIFA making an impact, and that, the carriers, and we're also seeing a lot of the carrier partners going, okay, right, we need, and we're not always on the 95% of the time, 90% of the time, hey, we're pulling in the same direction.
Right.
Sometimes we're not.
Right.
And that's okay, but we can definitely, partner when there's
So how does, if they're not involved, how should they get involved? Go to
NAIFA.org, NAIFA.org. There's a big button there that says join now. Click on that button. It'll walk you through some questions. They've got memberships. I mean, you and I mean, we're in it.
Yeah.
$600 a year, got it.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah.
$500 to the PAC a year, sure.
Yeah,
that sounds like $1,100 to make sure that I'm pushing the cart in the right direction.
For advocacy alone, but remember, like we talked about, take a little bit of time and look at the website.
Hey, well, let me tell you
the resources
something.
that are on there. If I'm looking for direct monetary value, like if that's where I'm at, it exists.
I think, and I get this a lot from my advisors, and I work with you, we partner on a lot of stuff, but we're friendly competitors, and part of my value add to my advisors is, hey, Pete's in the know.
Yeah.
He's paying attention. He gives a care about what's going on in our industry. And,
right.
Hey, Pete, I need to talk politics. Come down and we'll talk politics. Absolutely. Yeah. So it's good to be in the know, and you can be in the know with your clients. And not to sound campy, it's sort of cool getting a picture with Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
Even if you don't necessarily vote for Nancy Pelosi or with Stephen Choi or whatever, they go, oh, hey, this is somebody who's obviously paying attention, who probably is paying attention to what he does professionally as well, and probably an advisor I might. And whether they're going through those machinations in their head, they don't, but it's all of like this awesome program that you've put together. It's the sum total of those efforts and our activities that I think get us over the mountaintop.
I love that. Thank you.
You got it.
Thanks for coming in, my friend.
You got it, brother. I appreciate you. Till next time. Hopefully it'll be sooner than...
Cheers.
Cheers. I love it.